This is a Melitta paper coffee filter. You've probably drunk coffee made with one of these before. A German woman named Melitta invented the first ever coffee filter in 1908, and her company now produces over 50 million of them every single day. But they have dark wartime secrets. The Melitta family were committed Nazis and did unspeakable things within their business during World War II. Warning, this video covers hateful historic events. Viewer discretion advised. In 1908, a German woman named Melitta Benz had just poured coffee powder into her hot water and was waiting for the grounds to settle at the bottom. After a few minutes, she took a sip, but the lukewarm coffee still had grounds floating around, which frustrated her. This was how most people made coffee back then, but she wanted hot, clean coffee. So she poked holes through the bottom of a brass cup and lined it with a sheet of her son's blotting paper. After filling the cup with coffee grounds, she poured hot water in and watched as the filter coffee dripped through the paper into the cup below. She had just invented the paper coffee filter, which would bring her family billions of euros. Later that year in July, she was granted protection by the German Patent and Trademark Office for her filter cup design, which was to use paper filters. In December 1908, she founded her company M. Benz in her family-owned apartment and got to work with her husband Hugo. They initially commissioned 100 cartons of filter papers and 50 filters to be made in 1909 and started selling them in local family-owned shops. Later that year, they had even more produced and took them to a local trade fair where they sold over 1,200 units. Melitta and Hugo saw the demand for their product. So in 1910, just a year later, they began producing the filters themselves in their 5-bedroom apartment. The couple and their 2 sons worked together to assemble, package, and sell the items from their home. The 2 sons would deliver the goods with handcarts, while Hugo, their father, went from shop to shop setting up window presentations of the product. And by 1914, demand was so high for their coffee filters, they decided to move their business into a workshop, upgrade their machinery, and hire 15 staff members. Their business growth came to a halt when World War I broke out, as coffee imports stopped and Hugo was drafted. After barely surviving World War I, the company began to stabilize and grow again. And in the early 1920s, their eldest son, Willie, joined the company, which is when the money really started coming in. Fast forward to the 1940s, and Hitler is invading the Soviet Union. Meanwhile, in Germany, the Melitta business is booming. They're so successful that the Nazi regime has a special assignment for them, and they couldn't be happier to comply. However, before we get into that, so much happened between the 1920s and 1940s. In 1925, Melitta introduced its iconic red and green packaging. This set the brand apart from its competitors and strengthened the brand itself. The next year in 1926, they introduced demonstration ladies as a form of advertising. They would hire women to stand at a table in stores and demonstrate Melitta products. This form of direct marketing was highly successful. Business continued to grow, so much so that they needed a bigger factory. In 1929, Melitta and Hugo came across an out-of-use chocolate factory in the city of Minden, which was perfect for their expansion. So they acquired it, packed up all their machinery, and their 55 employees moved with them to the new city to continue business. Although Melitta would go on to commit awful crimes during the Second World War, they treated their German employees well. 6-day work weeks were standard for most companies back then. But in 1936, Melitta introduced the 5-day work week, giving employees a full 2 days off. And 4 years before that, they had increased annual leave from 6 days to 30 days. They had anniversary bonuses, discounted housing, health insurance, and even a company doctor and dentist. Melitta and Hugo retired from the company in 1932, at which point Horst, their second son, joined his brother Willie as co-owner of the company. Under their management, the iconic cone filter design was invented and patented in 1936. The model of filters that are most commonly sold today are not far off from this design. It's around this time that things started to take a dark turn. Hitler was in power at this point, and businesses were heavily controlled and incentivized to align with the Nazi regime. Melitta, under the direction of Horst and Willie, were not only compliant, they went above and beyond to support the Nazi party. In 1933, Horst Benz joined the Schutzstaffel, also known as SS, which was Hitler's elite bodyguards, and became one of the most powerful organizations in the Nazi regime. Under Hitler's rule, anti-Semitism swept across the nation during the lead-up to World War II, and in July 1938, in a Melitta's workers' assembly, Horst reportedly warned that anyone who buys from Jews will be fired immediately, and those who are seen in Jewish shops, whether they buy or not, will be fired. Unfortunately, that's not all. Melitta had a work paper that was regularly handed out to their hundreds of employees. And in 1938, it reportedly published an issue which had a blacklist of Jewish businesses in that area, with addresses. During this time period, Aryanization was happening in Germany, the process of seizing assets and goods that were owned by Jews, excluding them from economic life, and forcing them into poverty. So including the addresses of Jewish businesses was supporting this. The Nazi regime ran workplace awards each year. The company that was most loyal and aligned with the Nazi ideals would win the title of National Socialist Model Company. This was awarded with a golden flag which was to be flown outside the company building. In May 1941, Melitta was awarded this. Upon receiving this award, Horst Benz said in a company speech, "The factory and its work belongs always to the Führer. All work should also in future serve the mission and building up of the greater German Reich, created by Adolf Hitler." Sadly, Melitta's disturbing past gets even worse. Records showed that Melitta had used forced labor during the war. Forced labor was made up of deported citizens from countries Hitler invaded, prisoners of war, and sometimes concentration camp prisoners. There's no information about what conditions were like at Melitta, but generally, life was brutal for forced laborers. During the war, Melitta shifted its product range to goods important to the war, such as pots, pans, ammunition belts, and shell casings, just to name a few. At the end of the war, business for Melitta halted for a few years while Britain tried to restore order. Horst Benz was allowed to return to his leadership role at the company in 1948, and the company started to grow again. Over the years, they expanded their product line, built a new paper mill to level up their production of paper coffee filters, and continually improved the filter designs. In the 1970s, they started to expand globally. Today, the company is still a privately owned family-led business, but they make over $2 billion in revenue every year, have almost 6,000 employees worldwide, and sell their products in over 86 countries. Their product range includes coffee machine products, household packaging and storing products, cleaning and vacuum filter products, and paper-based products such as the famous coffee filters, of which they produce 50 million every single day. It needs to be said that the Melitta that exists today does not hold the opinions it once did during the war. They began paying humanitarian compensation to the victims of forced labor. This next video is about a man who tried communism in his business, and it was successful, but things came out about him that disturbed the world. See you there.